Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Carlos Siqueira. I'm the leader of the Salesforce Architect Group in Tampa. And we are extremely happy today to have Anchal Sharma to talk. She's a CTA. And one of the things that I try to push on this group is to inclusion. So I'm searching for any females around the world. Okay, there are CTAs or architects, confirmed architects, so that they can come and share. So with that said, Anchal, take it away. It's all
Thank you.
yours.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks so much for inviting me here. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. I'm Anchal. I'm working as Senior Technical Architect in Salesforce. And today we are going to go through the Omni Studio, which is basically used to rapidly build and deploy the digital first experience. Before I go any deep further, a brief about myself. I have over 12 plus years of Salesforce experience. I started my career with more of a consulting role, and then that is where I got more interested into how the products are being made. Since then, I have been part of two product based companies, which is ServiceMax and SFI. Both were App Exchange on Salesforce, and I have been part of the product side. So I do understand the behind the scene architecture of what goes into making a product on top of Salesforce. And now, because I'm part of the services, I also have an experience in terms of how do you work with multiple industries and how these products can be very useful and fulfill the vision of the customer. So being in terms of a vertical, I have been on the Salesforce platform for almost 12 plus years, but in terms of an industry experience, that's where I started gaining more interest into comms cloud, field service, energy, insurance, health. So these are the areas that I have worked with customers on. In terms of certifications, I got my CTA in August, and I've been working on the Salesforce industry certifications, which is Omni Studio Developer, CPQ Developer, and also the order management applications that we have. In terms of the customers that I work with and what really interests me into the work that I do today is all about the CRM implementation and customization. Not only just the CRM, which is like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, all the products that we have in industry, Health Cloud, Comms Cloud, insurance, energy, all these somewhere or the other work with the Sales and the Service Cloud that we have. Or in addition to it, there are new clouds that have been in place or existing clouds that have been in place, like manufacturing cloud, health cloud, finance cloud. Those are the existing ones. So we work with those customers as well and make them expertise, bring in their expertise in the industry's implementation and customization. I've been part of multiple digital transformation journeys of the customer. Do specialize in a lot of integration, design, and implementation, not only from the customer's end-to-end architecture perspective, but also from the product. I've been part of the product team in terms of designing the integration specifically with SFI products. So you would see Go Digital, Nokia integrations, or Energy integrations. Those are like pre-built in SFI velocity process libraries. Those are the one that were developed and designed by us in my previous in my like last 2 or 3 years back. Now, being part of that and in the era of digital transformation, everything is all about multiple channels that we work with. So I do have implementation experience in terms of mobile, data solution architecture, etc. Just before we go into the presentation, I just want to be cautious about the forward-looking statement. This is not a new slide, but in general, I just want to make a quick reminder that the customer should base their purchasing and the pricing decisions on the products and the services that are currently available. And thank you all for joining me today. Do appreciate the time and time you are able to take out from your current day schedule, and it's out of your office hours. So really appreciate the time you guys are coming up to understand new verticals that are coming in and what is the base of the Salesforce industries. In today's call, we are going to cover more about what is an Omni Studio, a brief introduction of Omni Studio, its capabilities and architecture, and then we can go about the Q&A round. Now, before I go into why we have like into the details of Omni Studio, I would like to first cover up about why is the need of an Omni Studio. During this pandemic time, we have seen the customers. So we in the current era, maybe I would say 3 or 4 years back, we had a lot of offices which are like just you have to go to a branch, you have to work there, you have to go to a grocery shop to get your groceries at home. Now you had like doctor offices, so and waiting rooms, so all these, like any kind of, even schools at a certain point of time were more of like, you have to go to a school to get something back in terms of like, the education that the kids get. So there were big brands that were ruling, and in this case, most of the big brands were focusing only to specific segments, so it was not targeted to everyone. So micro segment brands were not available at that point. So this is something I'm talking about 2 or 3 years back, which is where we uh, came across something like COVID, which completely turned around the way we all look into things. So most of the people started working from home. 90 or 100% of the people started working from home, and they were not able to step out in that time frame. Because of the necessity of the people, we could not go to offices, we could not go for grocery shopping, and what really saved us were the application that was somehow working. In terms of, if you want to apply for a loan, you don't have to go to branches, you can have like online loan applications, but still it was a lengthier process. But these are the 3 years or 4 years is what we have seen as an era where things have changed from being in a face to face, or more of a you have to go to a particular area or a location, then now to everything being online under your tips. So it is not just about the web application, but it is also about all the channels, the mobile, the tablets that we have. But they were because of the necessity in a short period of time, what we faced as a lot of challenge is that, the existing systems, the reason, the different branches, the schools, the grocery shops, or the branding, the big brands that were there, they all used to work the way, for a specific reason, because they had like a lot of complex rules and a lot of obstacles that they have to overcome. And they had a lot of disparate legacy systems that they have a lot of specific technologies, and they were not able to bring all these together and evolve. They were like, products they want to there was a certain time before pandemic, you were selling certain products, and now because of the pandemic, there have been evolved products, promotions. It's very high, it's very volatile, and the volume of the transaction has increased significantly. And amongst all of this, what we really want is a connected user experience. These were the reasons that most of the IT organizations who were very comfortable in more of face to face, or like, go to the location kind of an experience, now wanted to shift to more of a online experience. That is where what we believe is very significant is the guided customer journeys. Now, guided customer journeys are nothing but your low code digital interactions that we want to give to the customers on their tips. It should not be difficult for anyone to like, have the developer or a coding experience to come up with this good UI who can guide the user from one step to another. Now that is an Omni Studio, which basically helps you to rapidly build and deploy the digital first experience. Now this is very specific to industries, is what I'm going to focus in here, which is can be used across any SFI licenses that we have. Now you want to craft like the reason why, once we understand that the need, why is the need of an Omni Studio, and what are the areas that it tackles with, we can go into the details of what are the capabilities that are available. So in here, what I really want to highlight is Omni Studio provides you a branded dynamic interaction first interface, or the layer that it has without writing any code. It provides a connected guided user interactions with enterprise applications using declarative tools, and it simplifies the agents and the customer service experience with industry automation and the process libraries. It accelerates innovation using drag and drop configuration with modular or microservices oriented approach. Now, what is contained in an Omni Studio? So what I talked about before was is going to be an outcome if you want to use an Omni Studio. And in the Omni Studio, what are the capabilities that you get? So you get Omni scripts, which are basically your guided interactions that you have. Then you have cards, which is all about getting the customer information, and it shows you the industry specific UI components. The data raptors are basically used for retrieving the information on the Salesforce platform. Is basically an extract, transform, load tool. Anything that you have in your Salesforce database can be extracted using these capabilities. Now, in terms of integration procedures, it helps you to, once you have the information available, if you want from Salesforce, you want to make a call out all type of integrations, any APIs that you want to call, or any kind of orchestration, even if you want to do in Salesforce itself, you can do it using integration procedures. Now, integration console, it facilitates basically a contact center flows, which is very useful for contact center agents, considering that they have considering that they have different information that is readily available for them, making use of cards facility and Omni Studio and Omni script capabilities. Now, when we develop Omni scripts, what generally tend to happen is that we want to evaluate everything based on performance. Now, the performance of a particular guided journey. Let's say you want to create a loan application. Now, when you're creating a loan application, someone is entering their information. You are storing it in a database, and the third thing, the simplest thing, can be you want to send it out to an external system. All these different steps that happens take a certain time. That is what is the time that is being captured is what can be done in Omni Analytics. Now, Omni Analytics is not a performance analytics tool, but it is recommended for developers and testers to understand how they can continuously improve the way they have been developing, and what is the improvement in the performance of a particular page is what they see. Now, once these components and everything is being created in Salesforce in SFI, basically, it also needs to be migrated from one org to another, because Salesforce implementations are incomplete without a proper DevOps CI/CD in place. Now, how we help is, because OmniScripts, cards, data raptors, any configurations that you do at the end of the day are records. We need to migrate these records from your dev environment, your test, your SIT prod, etc., etc. And what is really helpful is IDX Workbench. This can be used with any of your Git, any of your CI/CD tools, basically, and can do the automations as well. Now, what we also have is a product explorer, where you can organize the metadata into collections of industry processes. So I'll go through each of them one by one, and we'll see how it all works together. Now, I would like to go into the details of each and every component that I just talked about. But before I do so, I just want to talk. I just want to refer in here a very layman terminology, and hope this helps in understanding the next coming slides. Now, when I talk about a loan application, the loan application is wherein the customer would come in, and the customer can come from your phone, from your web, or from your tab. Right now, all these, any information that is displayed to a user is your client side. Now, the client side is all about coming from multiple channels, taking a guided journey. Like, you enter the information, you go to next step. You enter the information, you go to next step. So when you enter the information, you're basically taking the input parameters. And once you have done added your input parameters, you might want to like slightly modify, update, and like, a small kind of a transformation that you want to do in your client side itself. You're not still going to your server side. So that is what you want to do. And then once you have completed your journey, that is your thank you, that you have done everything for creating an application or submitting a request. Anything that you want to do has been done. Now client side is just your UI front. In order for the data that you have entered on the client side to become effective, you go to the server side. So the way I see it is, it's always client side and a server side. The server side is a place wherein you take the inputs from UI, process the information, and perform any additional logic. If required, you make a call, API call, to complete the business flow. There is any error handling that is required would happen. And then once you're done in the server side, you give back a response to the client. This is a very simple client server client server diagram that I'm showing in here, which is just this part. Now what this will happen irrespective of Salesforce. So irrespective of industries, this is the basic application anyone would write in HTML, and even go to their AWS or Java applications to process it on the server side. The same concept applies in SFI as well. When you think of a client side, if you want to take an input parameter, you want to you want to help the customer to go through a guided journey, display information, all that will happen using your OmniScripts. OmniScripts are your steps, action blocks, formulas, and functions. Cards are basically used to display any relevant information based on the context ID. It can be an account or a contact, and you can launch from these cards also you can launch an OmniScript. Now, once you have gathered the information, well, you would go to the server side. The server side will be your integration procedures. So the integration procedures are primarily used for making any kind of a API call, or you want to call it Apex classes. Any conditional logic that you want to build on integration procedures, you can for that, any kind of logic that you want to build, it has to be done in your integration procedures. So think of integration procedures more as Apex classes that you want to run. You can run them synchronously, asynchronously, batch processing, caching, everything can happen in there. And also you can make an API call. But the only catch is, in generally in classes, you would Apex classes, you would end up writing code line by line for everything. Integration procedures are all configurable. Now if you want to extract data, anytime you're doing the server side processing, there is a possibility of insert or an update, or basically just retrieving the information, the get call that we make. So all that can be done using data raptors. So this is a very layman terminology that I generally use in order to make sure that we go from one client side to server side, and these are the capabilities that we use. I'll explain a more complex architecture once we have a basic understanding of these. Now, I would go into the details of each and every component that we have. The Omni scripts basically are, as I said, it's like, the client side journeys. It is going to provide you a guided experience. Now designing these Omni scripts does not require any coding experience. All of these capabilities are drag and drop. They are dynamic, and they provide multi-step business forms. So all the processes basically you want the customer to follow, you can create them using steps. Now there are 50 plus configured script elements and the controls that are available. You can create the client side logic, branching and execution as well. So there is a possibility that based on certain value the user has entered in an input field, you don't want to see certain sections. So all the branching logic and execution is available in the front end. So you're still not going to the server side. Now there are possibilities when you have the omni scripts you would like to go to, because you're capturing data, right? You would want to go to the server side to process that information. That processing is nothing but using data raptors, integration procedures, or calling rest, soap, or apex services. All that can be done, can be called as elements in the omni script itself. Now everything is drag and drop, and you would be able to see, oh sorry, you would also be able to see a preview of all the actions and the components that you're adding in the screen itself. Now, the good one of the interesting capability that we have is Omni Out. You can deploy this industry-based experience that we have as part of Web Component to Adobe Experience Manager or any other web server. So all these can be used as Omni Out. So it's very similar concept as Lightning Out, wherein you can expose any of that LWC components to a third-party system, wherein you would take care of providing the additional security. So it's very similar concept in that all the omni scripts that you're writing in here would be able to connect directly to your Salesforce and can be exposed to your external third party systems. Now, the interesting fact is about cards. Now, this is where we have a dynamic user interface, wherein you can show the summarized contextual information and actions that the customer or the contact center agents needs to take at a glance. It is again a drag and drop, no code required. It has 10 plus UI elements. It provides integration to OmniScripts. When I say OmniScript integration, it is basically just a drag and drop. And then on the actions, you can see you have like upgrade or a modify service. So these actions are nothing but they will launch an OmniScript here. In terms of data source wizards, it basically uses Salesforce data or an external data. You can write a query, you can define a data raptor. All that is possible. So it's basically using the same concept in terms of the underlying architecture. It is going to use data raptors, integration procedures, Salesforce, or external systems to bring in the data into Salesforce. It can also use external objects in here. Now it will automatically these will generate and deploy lightning web components. So all these things are all LWC based. In terms of data raptors and integration procedures, as I mentioned, that these are more of like server side. So once you have gathered information, the next job is go to the server side, dump that information, and give a successful or a failure response. Now when we do that client side to server side, the data has to be transformed in certain way. Now how that happens is can be into forms in general, is either in JSON or in your XML. So data raptors provide a transformation from JSON and XML based transaction for JSON and XML based transactions. It provides object to object mapping. So if you have a certain parameter, certain objects, like you have an information from an account, you want to retrieve it and you want to create a new record out of it, say loan request. So that all can happen. So it is just about mapping the fields. It can also map a JSON, just a JSON, to your object, which is basically, take a request parameter from your OmniScript. It is all in JSON format, and you dump it into records like accounts, contacts, leads, or opportunity, any Salesforce object that you take, standard or custom. Now, it also provides REST interfaces and JSON and XML based transactions. And transactions I have already called out. It also provides caching configuration. So, a lot of the configurations that is being done for data raptors and integration procedures can be cached, which basically helps in ensuring that you don't have to re-retrieve the server side logic. So if there is no change, whatever is in the cache will remain, and you can use it to update your calculations or any processing that is happening. And it also provides a bulk transaction support. So all these capabilities are part of your data raptors and integration procedures. Now, this is where we have interaction console. This is very much a combination of OmniScripts and cards that we have. This is very similar to, if I just want to do a mapping in my mind, it is very similar to service console that we have. You can define it into different sections and add different components to it. So it's the same concept. In here, Omni Studio comes out with interaction console by itself, which provides you the customer profile, the customer story, and the interaction launcher. Interaction launcher is nothing but you enter certain information and you validate it. That is the only time when you would be able to see a customer information. Without entering a valid information, you would not be able to go to the customer's record, basically. So this would, when you go to a customer record, what you see here is the information that is displayed to them, and view details, page, pay premium, all these capabilities that you see in here are basically all the Omni scripts that you have, or these can be the cards that we show as an information here. Like, so in once you have deployed your Omni scripts and cards, what you really want to see is the performance. Now, you, let's say you had a guided journey wherein the customer is buying a sim or a 5 MB plan. And in that case, what you need to know is, in each and every step, how much. So you would like to know when the customer started its process of getting into the application, till what step it went to, how much time it took, and how you are going to, like, if you want to increase the ROI, that means you need to submit the request, how you are going to basically ensure that the customer has entered the information, and are they going to complete the journey. So all that information is available for you in Omni Analytics. This will help you in improving your KPIs. Now, this is a graph which is available to you immediately, but you can also use Salesforce reports, Tableau CRM to retrieve this information and build your own reports. So that is also possible. Now, in here, because we have a lot of records that are being created, the out of the box tools that we have, like chain sets or any other metadata deployment tools that we have, won't generally work. Now, what we really need to do in here is migrate the records, for which, to make things simpler, the primary reason being the way we have our own, the Omni scripts, data raptors, integration procedure, they follow a certain format. So in order to bring that convenience of transferring this information, we use IDX Workbench. In this, you can check components in and out of the source control, the sandboxes, and the production as well. It helps you to visualize version to version changes. It's a desktop app, it's not a mobile app, it's a desktop app. And you can migrate changes and the dependencies in the between the orgs as well. You can also do performance profile actions of Omni scripts and integration procedures, and you can also visualize the test procedures execution with Gantt chart. So all those capabilities are available in as part of IDX Workbench. Now, the another thing that we have is a project explorer. This is basically a plugin that you can add, the project explorer. Now, this is a side panel that will exist inside any org. And the moment you enter any org, you would see uh, the industry explorer, project explorer, and it will show you the active projects and its content, that you can actually define the project that you want, and you can add the components that you believe should be part of this project. And any updates that are made to the Salesforce metadata are automatically added to this active project. You can search and navigate inside and outside the active projects as well. um, so till now, what we have learned is what are the capabilities that are available to us. We have OmniScripts, data raptors, integration procedures, cards, Omni Analytics, interaction console, IDX Workbench, and Project Explorer. So these are the handy tools that we have today as part of Omni Studio. And this is something you would get in any SFI package that you take. This is the base component. Now, underline it, what really happens is what I'm going to cover in as part of architecture. Now, in Omni Studio architecture, most of us are aware that this is something which is built on the Salesforce platform itself. So we have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. We can integrate with Mule, etc. Health Cloud. All these components, platforms, capabilities are available. So that remains as is. Now we have something called as Omni Studio, which is what we just talked about, and there are certain cross industry apps and components. So this is something in addition that we have. So everything is on top of Salesforce layer. Think about it as another layer on Omni Studio, which is basically helping you build this experience of automating your, what we used to write as a code is now is all configuration. So we used to write Visual Force, LWC classes. All that is now part of your configuration. You don't have to spend, at least if you're going to say 3 or 4 days in writing an Apex class and making it part of the LWC component, you at least would need a decent medium-sized complex functionality would at least take 5 days. All that can be achieved using Omni Studio in a day. So that's the output that we get. So it depends on the functionality. So it's not like one thing or the other, or like we have to use Omni Studio. It's not like that. It basically depends on the requirement. It all is requirement driven. But when you think of how much development you want to have or how much configuration you want to have, so the scalable approach is always Omni Studio. Now, when Velocity got acquired by Salesforce, we became part of industries, and that is where we have our insurance, which is now being part of financial service, health insurance being part of health and life sciences, utilities is a new cloud. Manufacturing, consumer goods, these are existing. Public sector, our health cloud is now part of the public sector. Communication and media and entertainment are new clouds that we have. Now, all these, this is something on top of Salesforce, and it works with your Tableau CRM, your community cloud, your mobile community cloud for partners, agent portal. It can work with any of your partner ecosystem as well, and with any of the integration layers as well, and with marketing cloud. So the concept remains the same. It is an introduction of a new uh, capability on the Salesforce platform. Now it is also part of the Salesforce core as well, depending on when it will be when it is available for everyone to use in every, in like sales and service cloud as well. So that's something to be looked up. But at this point of time, Omni Studio you get with all the industry clouds that you have, the ones which are part of Salesforce industries like insurance, health insurance, utilities, HHS, communication, media, entertainment. Now, this is a very general architecture that we have. Now, think of it as just Salesforce, right? So it's not a separation of SFI or Salesforce. Just think of a customer requirement. Basically, a customer is coming in, and so I'm just stating the requirement in here that a customer is coming in via multiple channels. It can be via phone or a web or a laptop or a mobile. They want to have the same experience while making a loan application. Because we belong to a finance, because the loan application is nothing but a finance related application that we want, it might or might not require integrations to the existing systems. And the existing systems can be internal systems and or any third party systems that we want to call, like SAP, Oracle, Guidewire, Huawei, BT, Experience. So all these can be different systems that you want to integrate with. Now, considering this requirement, two things can happen. Either it is using an external third party Adobe Experience Manager, or is it going to use a Salesforce communities? Now, let's take an example of a loan application. In the loan application, the customer can come from multiple channels, but in this case, Salesforce is not the front end, it's not the client side, or at least not the front facing. So most of the application is developed on Adobe Experience Manager, but only the loan application part is developed in OmniScript. Now, how do we show the OmniScript in the Adobe Experience Manager? Is using Omni Out. So this is what we use as omni out capability to show in the experience manager. And all these HTTP calls that happen back and forth will have to be authenticated, and have to have a secure line, and can create a Salesforce record as well. Now, in here, what you would see is Adobe Experience Manager. You could go back and forth, and we are basically calling an OmniScript. Now, or now the second part is that once, let's say the Adobe Experience Manager is just a portal for any XYZ information, but if the customer wants to submit a loan application not via Adobe Experience Manager, they would come to a community. All these OmniScripts that we have can be exposed as part of communities as well. And all the communities that you have, if you're using mobile publisher, you would be able to see them as part of that experience as well. Now, OmniScripts provide you a guided journey. The front end, the guided journey is basically you getting the information from the customer, and you want to make a call to the external system for availability, credit checks. All that will happen via integration procedures. You don't have to write any code. Now, all these integration procedures follow the same principle of security, using your named credentials. Your If you want, you can have you can have certificates also associated to it, to make sure that your integrations are secure between the two systems. So all that will happen. You can make an integration procedure as a call. You can also make call out to internal system. That means you not going to external services, but just to internal systems that is making, like Oracle, SAP, that is making these calls. And you can also go to different systems. You can orchestrate. So you want to have a credit check, and then you want to call multiple calls using integration procedures. So once you have done a credit check, you make an integration procedure call, come back, and these are the processes that you can do. Now, it just does not restrict us to a point to point integration. What we are showing in here is a capability that, if required, you can bring in any form of a middleware, can be a mule as well. So instead of having a point to point integration, you can also bring in a mule, and you can have one integration procedure making a call to mule and do this orchestration. But if it's a very simple requirement, you can orchestrate that very well in integration procedures as well. That's the understanding. Now, any questions till here?
Not for me. I was about to ask when you were doing the cards and when you were doing the data raptor,
Mm-hmm.
about where you could get the data, but you covered that you can get not just Salesforce data, but you can have external data as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. I was waiting for that, but you already covered. So everybody else, please feel free to to unmute and have a question, comment, feedback. This is your time.
You can post your questions in the chat as well, if that's something you're comfortable with.
It's all good, Anshal. I don't see anybody either posting anything or just unmuting them. So let's keep going. And
Okay.
once you feel like you're done, we can have a Q&A, portion, so people feel more comfortable to ask about, and we go from there. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to cover about that's actually all about Omni Studio. What I wanted
Hmm.
to give more as a reference is, you have Trailhead modules that can be used to understand more in depth of what is the Omni Studio capabilities, the server side, and the digital experience, why it is in place. All these are detailed out in the Trailhead. You can I can share, hopefully. Yeah, so you can
Yes,
share.
yeah. If you can
You
share
have
that.
You can see all these processes in here. It might be of an interest. I'm just posting it in here as well.
Yes, if you can share that trail in there on the chat, that would be great.
Yeah, so I have just posted that on the chat. This is something I found personally very interesting, that you would understand how all of these works, and it basically gives you an overview also of how to use those functions, formulas, because that's the niche. That's something is not very easy. That's something you might want to have more practice on. Rest of the things are very intuitive. You can just see, you can go through the UI. It kind of is self-explanatory. Things that you need some more understanding is on formulas and functions that are used, because that is something is unique to Omni Studio. Most of the capabilities that you would see are very how I would say is very is a way that you would actually do in your day to day life of Apex. So that's very similar as well. So it's very much the way you have practice, with few gotchas there. Now, what we also have is Omni Studio documentation. This is a very large PDF file which you can use. And in this case, this documentation, what you see in here is very high level. But in this foundation, you can go and see into details of each and everything, what happens, how it happens. Every content is called out. So I'll mention this one as well. Other than that, if you are a partner or have participated in with Salesforce Industries in any of the activities, you can go to the documentation, Omni Studio documentation, which provides you the capability of saying what is in each and every release coming up as a latest feature in the previous releases and in the current release, and you can compare and enhance your knowledge, basically. So Omni Studio documentation is very basic, but with every release, what changes are happening, how you can learn and unlearn things, will all be part of your SFI documentation that we have. So for this, you would require an access to SFI portal, Success Community. Yeah, it would look something like this. Unfortunately, can't share this one. It is basically on experience, that you basically the license is what you need to get. This just for an overview is what I have shared. Okay. With that, I don't have any more slides to go over, and we can go over Q&A.
Well, you will say you were the one saying thank you for people to make the time. We thank you for making the time. You know, it's that early in the morning for you. So I really want to say thank you. Omni is Salesforce Industries is something that people just hear about, and it's good to demystify, to understand that at the end of the day, it's still Salesforce, and the bulk of what you know about Salesforce is applicable. And that is, I would say, it's just another cloud that you would know. And with that said, I mean, open mic, anybody that has a comment or question. Uh, yeah, Lance has a question here. Can you share your thoughts on rolling out Omni Studio to any existing instance?
When you say existing instance, you're referring to any existing Salesforce org, is it?
Y- yes, that's correct.
You can. There is a capability of you can install manage package, SFI manage package, that is a part of it. So any SFI manage package you take, you would get Omni Studio capability with it.
What about
Uh,
replacing like hundreds of classes and just thinking about do you go after certain areas of it maybe, or just thinking about a strategy of replacing some of the old classes and triggers and so forth and so forth.
Um, the way I would pursue this one is, if we have an existing customer who is already using certain capabilities of Apex classes, LWC components, would shouldn't be a big bang approach of replacing everything. Keeping long term solution in mind, and making it very cost effective, it has to be more of in a phased approach. So identify the areas where you think you is more of good ROI, the which you can see immediately, or over a period of time like a 6 months, you could say a small MVP is what I would suggest. And in that MVP, what is your maximum ROI, and is also an area where you want to stop spending a lot. So those are the areas where you do very frequent enhancements, like any further coding that you do can move to your Omni Studio. Or the second way, other way to think about is the new capabilities that you want to build. So don't scratch off everything that you have done till now in the instance, but going forward, the new capabilities that you're building in, very industry specific, can go for Omni Studio capabilities. So two approaches, it depends on customer to customer. But if you have new, go with Omni Studio, and if you want to replace the old ones, go with the phased approach. Identify the key areas where you see a lot of ROI impact, and go with those ones first.
Angel, I have a question. Might be a long one.
Mhm.
Uh, every time that Salesforce buys a company, it happened when they had field service, right? When they bought Steel Brick, those files, those tables in there, those objects, they are custom objects, and it takes a while for them to become part of, first citizen, if you will, to become the, standard objects in there. First question is, do you have an idea when the velocity, maybe they already are, I don't think they are yet, but when the velocity custom objects, they will become Salesforce standard objects like a first class. Also, because they are just files, when you're talking about deployments, we're talking about metadata. Well, the metadata for standard objects, they use the metadata API. For velocity, it's not. Instead, to have XML, you have to use the JSON, because that's the way that they wrap around. It's just raw data. It's table driven
Right.
stuff. So with that said, when you do deployments, you can use VDX, the velocity, command line stuff in there. But
Mhm.
the question is, when is those velocities objects, they're going to become first class objects with Salesforce. And therefore, when that happens, the raw data that we see today, configuration data, they will no longer do that. They'll probably benefit for the metadata API. Make sense, my question?
Yes, yes. So I think there are two things to answer in this one. So when we say, just to reiterate, and to make sure that I'm getting it right, when we have these custom objects as part of the managed package, they can go as a first class objects in Salesforce. How does that transition happen? Is that, and when we do that transition, the second question that comes is, how do you migrate that information or the data that you have as metadata, which today is a record, might become a metadata in the
Yeah,
future, right?
you got it right. Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, the first part of the question would, to answer that, from what I understand, that's my opinion, is there is no way where Salesforce would stop the support for existing objects, or the custom objects that you have. It will continue to happen. Now what would end up happening is that you have, if it becomes a core, it will start having the core objects, right? So like for example, Omni Studio has OmniScript integration procedures, and all those become more of your standard objects, right? Those will continue to exist as standard objects, and we would have the custom objects as part of a managed package. Those will continue to exist, no conflict in there. Now it depends on the project. Now because we have almost one custom objects and a standard object with the same name or a different name, it can be a different name but the functionality is the same. Now what would might happen is you have to move in a future phase, you want to move those records from your custom to standard, because going onwards the enhancements might happen only on the standard objects. Now, keeping that kind of a thing in mind, we need to apply the phased approach of how much of the data that we want to move into the metadata of Salesforce now we have. Now, all that I believe has to be currently has to be done as part of your migration of custom objects to your standard objects, and would follow the same approach of how we have been doing migrations when you want to copy data from one object to another object. So that will remain the same. That's my understanding, until and unless Salesforce come out with an innovative way of saying that, this is how you're going to switch and the records will be migrated. So currently I believe there is no automated way. It has to be done as a part of a migration phase, from moving from the custom objects that you have to standard objects. Now how you do it has to be, will depend on your migration strategy that you take.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question. Thank you so much.
Right. Any further questions you have?
I don't see any on the
Okay.
chat. So let's give another second here. Let me share something here
Okay, sure.
about, so before, we let if everybody goes. What I'm sharing here on the chat is the link for our next event. It happens in 2 weeks from today. I mean, the demand for this group is so big that we put in events every 2 weeks instead to be once a month. We're gonna break for September because of Dreamforce and already have a lot going on for October. But yeah, I just put on the chat here so people make sure this one has already over 50 people, because the subject is, the problems that people go through to be a CTA and stuff like that. But if nobody has any other questions, I want to say once again thank you to Anchal
I
to
think
do
we have
that.
one question from Lance,
Do
in
we?
terms of, yeah, and just about difference between consultant and developer certifications. Uh,
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, yeah. I didn't see that. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe the developer is more of hardcore into what happens behind the scene and what are the ways you would write your Apex classes, LWC components, the nitty gritties of how do you do that. The consultant is mainly on an overview perspective. You would it's not as detailed as in developer, but in the consultant these are the capabilities that are available. So sales cloud consultant is these are the capabilities that you have available, and if you want to write a code, you can use an Apex class or LWC component. So that is how you would go for a consultant. Just identify the features and the functionalities of the cloud that you are interested in, and developers is more about very focused on security, Apex coding skills, LWC skills. So those are the ones I would qualify for certifications.
Great answer. Great, 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 great question as well.
I don't see any other questions coming up, so
Yeah, I'm checking here. No, I don't see any. So with that said, once again, I cannot say enough thank you to you, to Anshel. Thank you to all that took the time. I see here Kathleen Waterworth. She was having issues before. I hope she was able to get in and at least to see it and hear it. Worst case scenario, this recording will be available later on. I'll put this on the YouTube channel for the architect group, Salesforce architect group. And as I said before, thanks again, and Shao, thanks for everybody that took the time, and hope to see you all in 2 weeks, because it's going to be another great event as well.
yeah.
So enjoy the rest of your evening, and Shao, enjoy your day as well.
Thanks everyone, have a great evening. Bye,
Take
see you
care,
soon.
everybody. Bye
Bye.
bye.